There's plenty of guys I could choose to be a top 7 quarterback right now, but making this list, it was not easy. However, I think I have the top 7 quarterbacks right now in the NFL, in my opinion. And so let's just jump into it, and we'll start off with number 7, and to me, number 7 is Deshaun Watson. Now, I've said before on this channel that part of me does kind of feel like Deshaun Watson gets a pass for some things. I think that when you look at his sack totals, people only blame the offensive line. I think he does deserve some blame in that regard, but at the same time, I just think that his athletic ability mixed with his great arm talent and ability to make good reads, it's one of the best in the league, which is why he gets a spot on this list. Like on this play, for example, it's going to be a cover 1 hole, and that's the receiver he's going to want to hit right here. It's Kenny Stills running a route that'll cross over the field and will get open deep down the field, but of course it is going to take a little bit of time to develop. However, once it does develop, this route should be open. The real question is just going to be, will Kenny Stills be able to win his own one-on-one matchup enough to get enough separation to where Watson can make a throw? And the answer is going to be, well, kind of. There is some separation, but not a ton of separation. I mean, this is going to be a relatively difficult throw. The one nice thing right now for Watson is that he has a clean pocket, but he pretty much has to make this throw right now. And again, there's some separation. He definitely can make this throw, but if he underthrows it, it could result in an interception. So he has to be smart here. An overthrow is definitely better than an underthrow, but neither of which are better than his perfect throw he puts on right here, exactly where you would want it to be, and he just does that with consistency. It's one of the things that makes him so great. It's why he was able to lead his team to a divisional round matchup against the Chiefs this season. I do think that he is the only guy on this list with one glaring flaw, but at the same time, there's no doubt about it. The good absolutely outweighs the bad with Watson, which is why he earned the 7th spot on this list. Moving on to number 6, when you hear that this guy in the past 4 seasons threw for 4,900 yards, 4,000 yards, 4,900 yards, and then 4,400 yards, with 38 touchdowns to 7 interceptions, 20 touchdowns to 12 interceptions, 35 touchdowns to 7 interceptions, and then 26 touchdowns to 14 interceptions, you're thinking, why is this guy not higher? The stats absolutely are fantastic. Of course, I'm talking about Matt Ryan, who's just played unreal, especially with the fact that he hasn't had the best offensive line play. I mean, he probably had a bottom 10 offensive line last season. Obviously, having Julio Jones helps, but personally, I'd rather have a top 10 offensive line and not have Julio Jones than have a bottom 10 offensive line and have one of the best receivers in the NFL, because I think O-line is that important. The only reason I do not have him higher, and quite frankly, it does feel weird not saying he's a top 5 quarterback, but I just think there's so much talent in the quarterback position right now. I just do. Like, let's take a look at this play where this was his game winner, and I felt like he didn't get enough credit for how good of a play, how good of a throw he made on this one, where it's going to be man coverage, and there are going to be a couple of double teams in the middle of the field, but really the way this play is going to work for Atlanta is it's just going to be a pick play. They have their tight end run out, try to get into a way of a 49er who's in the area. Julio runs over the middle. The hope is that he gets open, and they're able to make a completion that way. But after the ball is snapped, first things first, there is pressure right here. It's not like immediate pressure, but without a doubt, Ryan can't just move his feet the way he wants to. He has to move over a little bit, and this is kind of an awkward throw for him to make. On top of that, Julio Jones, it looks like maybe his route wasn't ran perfectly. He probably should have been about a yard further deep at this point, and so at this point, Ryan wants to get the ball to Julio so he can try to get into the end zone, but there are San Francisco players in the area who are going to try to stop him at the line. Ryan can't hesitate here. He has to get the ball to Jones as quick as possible, but watch this throw. Watch how quickly he gets it there. If it's just a little bit slower, that's not going to be a touchdown. Just a fantastically thrown ball right there. And that's what Matt Ryan can do, and he can do it with consistency. This isn't a one-off. Matt Ryan did this all season long. He's absolutely worthy of a spot on this list. It feels weird putting him at 6. He should be higher, but there's just so much talent right now in the NFL. Moving on to number 5, I have a controversial one. No matter where I put him, he would be controversial. It's Aaron Rodgers. I mean, some people are going to say his numbers are down. He's not playing as well. He's getting old. Personally, I just don't see it. I think that what he's doing is fantastic. He has kind of changed his game a little bit, but the way he's playing the game is just really remarkable. Quite frankly, you throw for 4,000 yards, 26 touchdowns, and just 4 interceptions. If that's your decline, I am totally okay with it. I think that is absolutely still top 5 quarterback worthy, and we'll use this play as the example. It's going to be a cover 4 zone, and that's going to be Lazard's route. So, okay, on paper, this route looks like it maybe would get open, but probably not, because it is going to be zone coverage. It's cover 4. There's plenty of New York players deep. But take a look at what happens right when the ball is snapped. First things first, you're going to notice that Rodgers has a ton of time to make the throw. So that's just part 1. Good job on that rollout. Rodgers is completely left alone right now. But also, if you notice what's going on right there, a giant who was in charge of covering deep moved a little bit further in to try to take away a crossing route over the middle. But because of this, it now means that Lazard right over there has a chance to get open when he breaks to the top half of the screen, and especially when you look at him, he faked as though he was going to the bottom half of the screen. This fooled his assigned man, so now he is going to get wide open. But what I love about 35-year-old Aaron Rodgers is that he does not panic in this situation, say, oh my god, I have a guy wide open, let me get the ball to him as quick as possible. Watch his patience. Watch how he just calmly throws it up there like he's playing catch, basically, is easily able to hit his wide open receiver. Again, he's made way more accurate passes over his career. He's made way more accurate passes this past season. He's made way more impressive passes this past season. But I wanted to show that play because I think that kind of exemplifies what really he did that made him so great in 2019 was the fact that he was patient. It was the fact that he played like a veteran and he made the correct decision more often than he made a great throw. Admittedly, he would occasionally take too many sacks. Like, that's a real thing. He sometimes wouldn't make these tough throws because he didn't want to get the interception. But to me, that speaks more of the system and the way that the Green Bay Packers didn't want to turn the ball over. They wanted to control the clock. They wanted to control the game. To me, that speaks more system than Rodgers, in my opinion. Maybe I'm just saying that because he's an all-time great and I'm making excuses for him. But even with the sack totals, I think that he was still incredible last season. He's a top 5 quarterback in my opinion. You know, you disagree, that's fine, but that's what I think. Number 4 is going to go to Drew Brees. Now, Drew Brees all of a sudden had this narrative that he sucks and he can't play anymore. Like, I don't know how that happened because he literally had one bad game last season. It just happened to be the playoff game, which, okay, that's going to get you some heat, but at the same time, I think people forget how good he was down the stretch once he came back from the injury. He actually played really good football. I know touchdown to interception ratio is very much a flawed stat, but he had 27 touchdowns and just 4 interceptions. Again, that's going to get it done, no doubt about it. I feel very similar to Rodgers when I'm like, if this is his decline, he's declining very gracefully. This will be the play I'll show to exemplify Brees' greatness, where what's going to happen is that cover 1 hole. This is actually relatively similar to the play I showed you with Deshaun Watson, where Michael Thomas is going to cross over the middle, so at a certain point in this route, it definitely will get open. Of course, part of it getting open means that Michael Thomas has to get open. He does that pretty often, but on this play, he's actually not that open. I mean, again, some separation for sure. There is a window where Brees can try to fit this through, but it's definitely, again, almost an identical play to the Deshaun Watson play at first. But to me, I think this kind of goes to show, you know, one thing that people might put against Brees is he has Michael Thomas to throw to. But trust me, it is just as much Brees making Michael Thomas look good as Michael Thomas making Brees look good. It is a team effort. And watch how Brees just lays on an absolutely perfect throw, and then Michael Thomas helps Brees out by getting some yards after the catch. But again, the only reason that Thomas could get those yards after the catch was because of the perfect throw that allowed Thomas to make the catch in stride and then continue running after it. So Brees was able to do that. His stretch after coming back from the injury all the way up until the playoff game, he was fantastic. He did have a bad playoff game. That has to be said, but to me, I think he easily is still a top 4 quarterback in the NFL. Moving on to number 3, I got to go with the MVP. I got to go with Lamar. I mean, listen, the guy won MVP. You win MVP, you're almost always going to be at least a top 3 quarterback. One thing I love about Lamar is his running ability, and it didn't even just come into play on designed runs. He would sometimes know when to scramble, which is something that didn't really get talked about too much, but I think it's worth mentioning, and I'll bring it up on this play. It's going to be, they're playing the Jets right now. It's a cover one blitz, which, playing man coverage against Lamar, not always the best idea, but what they're going to do is that Baltimore has those receivers running those routes right there. And so this is the kind of situation where, as you see, there is pretty much nobody going to be on the top half of the screen, and pretty much everyone is running deep, with the exception of two routes, which are running towards the sideline on the bottom half of the screen. So Lamar, if he decides to run, could have plenty of space to do so. The problem right now is that right after the ball is snapped, Lamar knows, okay, he reads the play, he realizes that he could try to run with the football, but the problem is, it's not like there's exactly just a wide open gap that he can run through on the offensive line. I mean, there's kind of some gaps that he could try to run through, but whatever gap he chooses, without a doubt, a Jet could run over and make a tackle, and he could lose yards on this play. So it's a little bit dangerous to do it, but Lamar trusts his abilities. He just sprints through a small hole, but he gets there so quickly, a New York player can't adjust to it, and that allows him to run the ball all the way inside the 10-yard line. Just that acceleration is what makes him so insane. I don't think there's anybody in the league who can accelerate like Lamar, and it really shows. Moving on to number 2, it's the guy who you gotta think at a certain point in his career is going to win an MVP. If he finishes out his career the way he's been playing, he'll be a Hall of Famer. It's Russell Wilson. He deserves the number 2 spot, in my opinion, no doubt about it. And what's going to happen on this play is that it's going to be a cover 1 blitz, so same play as last time, but Russell Wilson will not be running the ball this time. He will be passing the ball. And the way that this play is supposed to work for Seattle is they have their number 1 receiver on the bottom half of the screen run a route like that, which is going to basically just try to get that Tampa Bay player out of the way because they have another receiver running that route. That's a route that Russell Wilson likes. He thinks that his receiver can get open in this one-on-one matchup, so he is going to look in that direction. And there's a reason for it. As you see, there is an opening, and Russell Wilson just drops an absolutely perfect throw. You could not ask for something better than that. And it's even crazier because, again, you have to time that one perfectly. You have to know exactly how fast your receiver is. His receiver was running full speed. Some of these plays, the receiver adjusts to the route a little bit. Not on that one. Russell Wilson completely dropped that one in there. Just an unreal throw. And that's a throw that there are legitimately guys in the NFL who just can't make that throw. I mean, I don't even mean consistently. I mean, they wouldn't make that throw 2 out of 10 times. Like, the fact that Russell Wilson can make those throws so consistently, it's why he's number 2 on this list. And the only reason he's not number 1 is because we have a ridiculous number 1. Of course, it's Patrick Mahomes. He has to be the number 1. I mean, he's the guy where everybody is going to be saying that, okay, who's number 2? Because we all know Patrick Mahomes is number 1 probably for the next decade. I mean, he's so good. He just makes some plays that honestly annoy me with how good they are because they shouldn't work. Like a play like this where it's going to be zone coverage, but this is actually a pretty good disguise by Oakland right now. They're not giving away what the exact coverage is. So Mahomes doesn't know what the coverage is before the ball is snapped. The one route that will get open will be that route right there. But again, Mahomes doesn't realize this. So right after the ball is snapped, the first thing you're going to notice is that there is going to be definitely a window where Mahomes could maybe make that throw, but not really. I mean, there is going to be an Oakland player who's in the way. If Mahomes was further to the bottom half of the screen, he could make this throw, but because he's so far to the top half of the screen, this throw just isn't going to work out. And not only that, but now there's pressure, so Mahomes has to get around the pressure. Not really a lot's open right here. Maybe he could take a check down or just throw the ball away. He does have a couple check down options, so that might be the move, but at the same time, it's 3rd down and 10. Mahomes doesn't want to give up on this play and just kick a field goal. That's not Mahomes' style. So he's going to get around the pressure, which gives enough time for his receiver to get open, and then he makes a throw off balance across the field for 1st down. And that just should not be able to happen. Like, that breaks all of the rules of football. He broke like 6 different rules right there. Every quarterback coach coaching a high school kid would say, take the check down right here. Don't try to do too much. Well, Mahomes is the kind of guy where he's always trying to do too much, and it's always working. I mean, absolutely ridiculous. What else needs to be said about Mahomes? He's a clear-cut number 1 right now in the league, in my opinion. I don't think you could even argue anybody else. That's just my opinion. So yeah, just to recap, Deshaun Watson, Matt Ryan, Aaron Rodgers gets the 5 spot, Drew Brees at the 4 spot. Then I have Lamar Jackson, the MVP, getting number 3. Russell Wilson, the second best quarterback right now, and Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL right now, in my opinion. But that's just my list. I'd like to know your guys' list. Let me know in the comments below. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and of course, as always, thanks for watching.